that I
Hey there, and welcome to the Oscars Death Race podcast, where we try to watch all the Oscar nominated movies or die trying. My name's Paulo, and I'm your host. Hope you're doing well out there. What you're about to listen to is an interview I conducted with the sibling pair of writer actress MJ Garcia and editor Andy Garcia, who also happens to be a programmer for the AoDR Film Festival. I talked to them about the short film Bbcitos, which is part of the third annual Academy of Death Racers Film Festival. In Bbcitos, two LA-based Latinx friends take a day trip out into nature in order to escape the stress of working in the film industry. In this interview, I talked to the pair about how the slice of life film came about, their decision to start a production company together, and what it's like to work with your sibling. We also talk about finding the story in the edit, as well as their take on Latinx representation in film. Bbcitos is playing alongside over 60 other short films at the AoDR Film Festival running through January 21st, 2024. Tickets are still available at the time of this interview going live, so be sure to tune in to check out all the shorts, including 11 short films shortlisted for the Academy Awards. Be sure to check them all out, including Bbcitos, while you still can at AoDR.net. Also, be sure to tune to the Academy of Death Racers YouTube channel for more illuminating interviews with other directors and filmmakers. Without further ado, let's dive into this spoiler-filled interview with MJ and Andy Garcia. All right, and joining me are the sibling pair behind who worked on the Academy of Death Racers short film Bbcitos. We have MJ Garcia, co-writer, producer, and actress of Bbcitos. She's an actress and makeup artist based in LA. Has appeared in the James Young Happiest Year music video, the horror film Roommate Wanted, and the web series The Writer's Block and Unknown the series. And we also have Andy Garcia, who is the editor for the film, and of course a programmer on Academy of Death Racers. Also based in LA, though of course both of them are also from Colombia. Welcome to this interview, guys.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, so before we get to talking about the film, I actually want to ask you guys first. First off, which one's the older sibling?
I am.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So how did you guys decide to get into movies, or how did you get into movies from when you were younger?
You go first. Though.
I think our parents are very like hippie, so like they wanted us to have like a very healthy childhood, so there was no TV in our home. Like we wouldn't watch TV in the weekdays. So in the weekend, it was like our TV time, our screen
Mm-hmm.
time, and they would take us to our local blockbuster, and we would all pick a movie, and then that's what we would watch on the weekend. So I think we like correlated entertainment with movies very quickly since we were young. And then to me, I know that to me that's like I immediately was like that's what I want to do with this. I loved watching movies, so I just knew that I wanted to be
Mm-hmm.
in them. And that's for me, that's my case.
Yeah. And what about you, Andy?
So for me, it came more like as an incentive as well to wait for the weekend to watch films as well for after the blockbuster. But when it became more crucial to me when I started to watch more sci-fi films in the way that a lot of the films that were a lot of popcorn films became natural disasters and some like animated films they became very like appealing to me. So when I watched Inception, I started to go deep into it and I started to play with Legos and like try to recreate those scenes. And then I started to upload and edit stuff and take pictures and upload them on YouTube and as stop motion videos of films like Jurassic Park or The War of the Worlds. All of those films became sensational for me, and it became a ritual that I was I started to watch even more films after that, and then I got into the Oscar season, and then after that, it just skyrocketed into watching a lot of films because of the Oscars.
And now you're one of the degenerate death racers, like the rest of us.
Yes, indeed.
All right. So you mentioned that your favorite films are, sci-fi, type films. How about you, MJ? What were the films that captured you most?
When I was younger, I was all about comedies, so
Hmm.
every type of comedy. And then, like, as I got older, that transitioned into, I still love comedies, but then I started liking more like satire comedies, which when you're a kid you don't really enjoy, but then when you grow up,
You get
that's
it.
where it's
You
at
get it.
for me. And then, but nowadays I love slices of life. I love very real, relatable movies. I love being able to see myself in films, and I love movies with, like, this is gonna sound like redundant, but I love movies with a message.
Mhm.
Although, like, pretty much every film has its own message, but to me, like, the films that have like social commentary, that's, I love that, and I want to be a part of that. I want to, like, really tell important messages in the art, in my art.
And when any specific films come to mind that kind of like fit that slice of life with a message film that speak to you?
You know, slice of life. Okay, with messages, every, like, Parasite,
Hmm.
that's like
Yeah.
the first film that I think about. Like, that's
Mhm.
that's a social commentary right
Yeah.
there. But I do love also, like, slices of life. Wow, nothing comes to mind right now. Well, Ladybird is
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
like that, like
Okay.
something that, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Hmm.
You guys.
Or any Woody Allen film as well, kind of in that area. It feels more like slice of life, and but they're just talking and feeling. Or Before Sunrise, no?
Yeah, Before Sunrise, like that trilogy, that too.
Okay.
Hmm.
You guys grew up in Colombia, right? Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
when did you guys make the move to LA, and then how did you, find your way into working in? I know you work as an actress, and makeup artist, MJ, and Andy. You work as an editor professionally?
No, not yet. Not
No.
professional. I'm still studying.
Okay, okay. So you're still in school at the moment, and MJ. So when did you guys move to make your way to LA and find your way into the film industry?
I did it first. As soon as I graduated high school, I came here to go to school for acting for film.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I always knew that I wanted to be based out here. So that was like my um, bridge. I came to school, and then I, like, understood the city, the industry here, and then I just stayed. So I was able to, like, get work here and stay. So that was me almost 10 years ago, and then my brother just recently joined me.
I joined her on around the end of 2021 and the beginning of 2022, and it has been like around, yeah, 2 years ever since then. And it's just I keep studying and I just keep creating content with my sister.
Oh, yeah,
So we
awesome.
both
So
came to school here
okay, what other projects aside from Bbcitos have you worked on? Before Bbcitos, if any, what other projects are out there?
together.
Yeah, together.
Well, we started working together last year because, well, first of all, he recently joined me, but also at the end of the year before last year, we decided to open our own production company together.
Mm-hmm.
So last year, it's when we've started putting it to work. So we did Bbcitos, and then we also did Andy's film that I think is not out yet, The Pyramid. And that's basically it. We found each other on different sets, like friend sets and things like that, but like our own thing, we're still very, very new.
Very new. Okay, cool, cool. So how is it working with your sibling, Andy? I'll start with you first. How is it working with your sibling? Because I have two siblings, right? And I feel our me and my siblings' personalities are, we obviously as a sibling you have like a common language with them, but also the personalities don't always necessarily match. How is it for you two working, having that dynamic of being siblings, having a personal life together, but also this professional element of having to work together?
That's
I
a great
Yeah,
question.
on the on the set of the pyramid of where my sister and I worked on, she was the script supervisor and I was directing. It became a mutual, like a friendship of work environment of where she was always on top of me on script supervising questions. But she was also my sister, so we it became really cool in sensation that we were working on both sides of the spectrum. While an entire crew for me was just the professional side, but I also had my professional sister, but I also had my sister on set, and it became like a very cool dynamic to me, and it just I embraced a lot of it in the set, and I loved it even more having my sister on set because it made me feel calm because in some world I was looking to the future, but I also was bringing my childhood past experience with my sister onto set, so it was like a mixture of both worlds.
Yeah. And what about
Yeah,
you,
It's really
MJ?
cool.
I'd
Any
have to
bullying of the
agree.
younger brother going around?
What was that?
Any bullying of the younger brother going around?
We don't bully each other that much. We like joke and stuff, but we're not very aggressive. So I think that we didn't have a lot of
Mm,
that. But I do know that I'm sometimes I can be very motherly with him.
mm,
So I know that in that on that set, that's when I truly learned like okay, there are spaces for me to be motherly around him, but not on his set.
mm,
Like on his set he's my director and he's my co-worker. So yes, we are still siblings, so yes, I can remind him to, I don't know, I'm obsessed with good posture, so I can remind him to like stand up straight. But it's like it's not about that. Like I probably wouldn't go around and say that to every director. So
mm,
sometimes that's when I had to learn like okay, um maybe I can say some things, but I want to keep it professional. And I also like, to me, I always tell him like watching him grow has been a pleasure for me. So there I had those moments on set of like just like sitting back and like watching him do his thing. And then that also like as a sister I was like so proud of him as well. So I just like it was easy to like just not like let him do his thing, and then maybe when we're together just outside of set like maybe talk a little bit more about the things and maybe gossip like this person was cute or whatever, but on set it's like it was work vibes really. So I think it was because we have a very trusting relationship with each other. I think that helped to like not get in our heads of like this is my coworker but also my sister. I think it was easy.
that's super sweet to hear. Makes me want to try working with my siblings. Give it a shot. All right. So you said that you guys started your own production company. I think it's Golden Watts Films.
Hmm.
And then it sounds like Bbcitos is the first film that you guys put out under that label, correct?
Yeah,
So okay,
correct.
tell me about this. So obviously, MJ, you've been here for a while. It sounds like you're older by how much? By 10 years? It sounds like, or a little bit less.
I'm 6 years older than him.
Six.
Okay, 6 years older. Okay, so you're older than him by about 6 years or so. How did this film come about? It sounds like it came maybe like shortly after he came here, and you guys started the company together. Where did the idea for this film came come from?
It came from like we started our production company because we both know we're both creators. We
Hmm.
both want to put out like our work, and then we realized we want to put our stamp on it, like something that it we want to brand our things. So we were like we're both here together. We can use each other a lot. We can rely on each other a lot. So let's just like like what's the word? It's like I
Like
mean, yeah, it's kind of like
synergize.
yeah, exactly. Like yeah, we if we just make a brand for our things, then it's easier to like not like it's like
Mm,
oh it's a passion project, it's we're doing this. It's like no,
yeah.
this is we're putting out work. So first came the production company because we knew that we were going to put out work and we were going to work with each other a lot. So then first we made that, and then I had wanted to like write my first script for a while, and then the idea came. I just like I told you, like I like seeing myself in other movies, so I said I want to put out something that's so real and so personal to me that other people can find themselves in it. And then that's how the idea of the script came about. And then I just wrote it, had a friend like co-write it with me, and then I had him on board. He was very my brother Andy was so busy around that time, so I had him as a second AD, But to me, if it was up to me, I would have had him as like my DP, my AC, my everything, because like I rely on my brother a lot.
Mhm.
But that's how that script came about. Yes.
Okay, so it's a script that you wanted to put together of that kind of like your own experience, like I guess
Hmm.
living in LA. It sounds like living in LA. The characters sounds like it's based on working in the industry, not getting paid
Hmm.
a lot, not having a lot of money,
Hmm.
going out hiking. You mentioned before we interviewed you just came back from a hike.
Yes.
So very much you. Is there anything else in the film that is very specifically you? That's not just this character.
Yeah. There's a big part of the film. I talk a lot about food and like fruits and like healthy food, and that is very, I mean, that is definitely very me. That is something that I do like every day. I ask my friends like, "Did you eat vegetables today?" Like I love that. So I wanted to bring that for the character. And we have a deleted scene because it just ended up being way longer than we wanted to. But so we cut down like two scenes. One of them talks like more deep into like the struggles of being like an up and coming artist in LA. In that one, I had to blend more like my real um, experience with like maybe this character has also a different experience, like maybe because my character in the film, I made her only a makeup artist, not an actress and makeup artist. So I really went into like how does a only makeup artist live in LA, how is her life and how is that different than mine. So there was some dialogue in that deleted scene that is like, this is very me, but this is also her experience, that's just the character's experience.
Okay. Okay. And then was the dance break choreographed, or is that just like free form, or how did that go?
It was not choreographed, and we wanted to like bring a speaker and just do whatever. And then when we got to the beach, we realized we left the speaker in the car, and it was a little bit of a walk. So we were like, we're not gonna do that. So we were like, we're both Latin. I think we can both come up with something. So we just, which then we realized it was better because we know that if we had had a song playing, then we would be influenced by it, and probably in a great way too. But it was also very fun just like letting ourselves do whatever we wanted with no influence at all. And like in my idea, when I wrote it in the script, I literally just wrote dance break. Like I didn't say like this is where they like do this and they look at each other and nothing. I was like dance break. So it was really really fun in the on the day off just to like do whatever we wanted, and I think it came out, thanks to my brother's editing, it came out beautiful.
So it sounds like Andy, you were busy around this time. So were you on set at all during this, or no?
It was a 2 day shoot, and I was on the second day.
Okay.
The first day, I was also in production for another set.
Okay. Okay. So very busy. How was it? I'm sure you probably like shared the script with him at some point. Prior. Like, how did it? Like, how did you on set make any suggestions? Make anything to This sounds is very much your sister's story, her personality. Did you, as a brother during production, make any suggestions? Make anything? Any recommendations to help bring out that more of her that maybe she didn't see in herself?
On production, I became more aware of the character itself that she was presenting. Although the thing is, when you're on set, you really come to work on the production wise, and I didn't realize what was going on until the editing process, because what you shoot on set is turns out so much different than what it does on editing, because you can. And so for me it was hard to give suggestions while shooting, because we were like, I don't know how this will turn out by mixing this. But when we started in the post-production part, that's where I realized, okay, we can do this and this. It's just really hard to do that on while on set,
Is
but
there
we managed to work it.
Yeah, I
anything?
think his real input came in the post production
Okay.
moment. Like that's when I really like every day I would call him and say like, what do you think, and then he would say like, I noticed this, and I'm like, I heard his opinion and his perspective so much. Like that's really, I owe post production to my brother.
Okay, okay. Talking about the film, right? Going back to the actual content of the film. So, it follows, these two, struggling artists, so to speak, like in LA, right?
Mhm,
Clearly they're friends, right? And they go on this hiking trip, kind of distress from, stressful day in the city. They share a life, they talk about food, they go dancing, right? They talk about, this girl that the guy is maybe into, right? And the
mhm,
importance of being Latinx, which we'll get to in a little bit. I was kind of honestly thrown off at the very beginning, right? There's the title card, like Bbcitos, and it gives a kind of like the definition for it is, the two first ones, and then the third one is, term of endearment for of a feasible love, right? So
mhm.
for a second, I thought it was gonna make is this gonna be like a romance, right? Like a developing romance, or like what were your thought? What was your thought in having this kind of very it feels almost like a platonic or maybe like a gay best friend type relationship between the two, and then having that specific third definition in there of the feasible? Is there like a greater meaning behind that?
That happened organically. That kind of like the movie, kind of when we were editing it, we both started seeing like a third layer of the film, because we had that like the friendship, and then co-workers, like this very step, like we knew what story we wanted to tell. And then when we were editing it, we also found a new story that we didn't think about when we wrote the film and when we shot the movie. It was it like the way it came out, like we felt like there was something more that we didn't necessarily like want it to tell, but like it was like the film was telling us something more, so we both, so we like thought about this so much. This was hours and hours of us going back and forth, like is this what people is like, are people reading this when they watch this film, or are we just making it up? And we had a lot of opinions from friends that we trust very much. We were like, what do you, some people were like, oh, I definitely see some love there, and then others were like, I don't, I feel like maybe it's kind of that situation of like one of the friends is maybe in love with another one, but we don't know, maybe they don't know either. So it was like, to us, we were like, let's just give it a name. And then to us, that was like, that definition was like, that can be a layer that some people get, some people probably don't. But like I said, it happened very organically. It was like the movie asked for us to do that.
Hmm. Yeah, it definitely felt like having that framing it within there. I think definitely added a lot to having that. Because otherwise, I would have seen it as like, oh, it's just a slice of life film, and that's that. But having that in there, kind of like, oh, that's like another possible interpretation. All reminds me almost of this a film from this year, Past Lives, right? Of like a part of a
Mhm.
potential relationship that could have been. Here I'm going to turn to Andy, right? So we've talked about during the production process how this is something that MJ put together. How did so when you came in the post production, what was your process, right? Like you obviously had kind of like the script, you had kind of like the story. How did you make the choices that you made? Any specific edits or specific cuts that you're really proud of in this film?
For this film, the problem that we probably had was that we had a lot of content. We had a lot of footage, and we had a story that was telling itself, um, but our issue here is that it became very much a full slice of life, that we had to trim it just enough so that the story itself was condensed, but also that it was in some way simple and just a quick meetup, a quick day, basically. And we what we really did in the post production part was just to trim out what probably doesn't say a lot to the audience. It probably says something to the character itself, but not to the audience. And we kept what meant more for the whole film and for the audience and for the purpose of the film. That's where we found out about the third story that we were talking about, and that's where we discussed a lot, and we also gave in and to try to embrace what the story was telling. We just embraced what we shot and and try to edit in the best way possible. And there were some cuts so that it feels like a vibe, and so that you can just go and just chill with it, and it is definitely that I think, and I think I'm proud of it,
Okay.
really.
How long did so you mentioned it was like a 2 day shoot, right? I'm sure you, MJ, you've been working on this script for a while, potentially. How long did it take for you to from post production to locking the final edit and everything? How long did that take you, Andy?
Oh, I think it became, since we started editing very early on, but then at the later stages on, when we're trying to start with a rough cut, with a more polished cut, we realized that story, so we had to think about it more and see what we can really do to take out, because we thought we had the cut until we realized wow,
Yeah.
there's something that
There were like two
is
phases to
that
editing. It was like the rough
yeah.
cut and then the refining cut, basically.
Yeah, first is it was like just the cutting, and then the second one was the finding the meaning of it.
Mm.
That's
Hmm.
how it is. That's why I think it became a little bit longer in that sense, because it was something that we were not expecting to make it longer. That's why I think the post production part became a little bit longer, because we thought it was gonna be easier and like to cut it, until we found out that the meaning had to be changed or had to be found in order to
Mm.
fulfill this cut.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean it.
and I think there was a big learning moment for me when
Mm.
I had to learn to detach myself more from my script, because obviously like this was my first script, so I felt very precious about it. So like Andy or another friend or whatever would say like cut it down, like it doesn't need to be like Andy was saying, like there were scenes that were obviously very well written, very well acted, very well shot, but they didn't necessarily move the story forward. And so we were like we can cut it. And now to me, I like we would cut it and then I would watch the film and I would miss that other scene so much. Then I would go like, let's take it back, let's do it again. But then so I was like, okay, but I understand that it's too long, so let's cut another scene. And then that wouldn't work for me. And then at one point I just had to let it go and like learn that not that I didn't like it was like I said, I had to be less precious about my script. And so that when I learned that and when I decided that, it was easier to say like let's go with this and then let's keep moving forward. But I do know that it we delay the process because I felt like I needed more suggestions, I needed more people watching it and telling me what to do. And in the end we all knew what we needed to do. And then but it was hard. So it was for any other new filmmaker out there, that's a very big lesson that I learned. Just like don't be so precious with your script and don't be so attached.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I mean that definitely sounds. Hearing this process, it's to me, it sounds like it was almost meant to be, right? Like, you know, MJ, you came up with the concept, you kind of led the production, but then as a joint venture between the siblings, the story really only came out through the edit, which is where Andy
Hmm.
came in. So it definitely was like a this definitely feels like a joint effort from both of you, as opposed to just one leading the whole process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had to learn. I mean, I this was also my first time as a producer, so it was my first time being very hands-on in the post-production part, cuz like I'm an actress and a makeup artist. I'm there in the pre-production and in the actual production, and then I let go, and then I come later when it's time for a premiere, you know?
Yeah.
But this time I was there going and seeing like his process of editing, and so it was also like I that's where I really understood what editing does, like. And my brother told me like we're still writing the script when we're editing, because if you cut down two scenes then maybe it's a different story, and that's okay. So it was like that's when I learned like okay, we're still discovering the script in post production.
Mhm.
So that was also like a big lesson to me, and also very fun. Like I to me it's like even if I'm in my next project, even if I'm just an actress, I'm still going to be like I would still love to understand what happened in the editing room, because it's still so much, and it's as much of an art form as it is to me to perform.
Yeah, and Andy, what was probably the biggest learning lesson for you, outside of the editing bay, right? Like about the whole process.
Mm, outside of the editing process, that in some cases we really need to, let's say, I think I think everything to me was related to the editing process because in some way editing is cutting, and trying to cut a lot of the story itself was hard. So sometimes I think it's like you need to always think the editing even while writing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think is my biggest takeaway is that you need to
Mm-hmm.
see how when you're writing the script how it will cut. You need to see how the timing will cut it eventually if this feels right or not. Like eventually I think I told my sister that for future processes, for future films in general, we need to start thinking about every production as pre-production, production, and post-production as like an editing process and as a visual storytelling that just needs trimming. And we take there's a saying that I always like that is we take out the boring parts of life while doing in film. It's just it really editing is just taking out boring parts of it, and that's just to make the film better.
Yeah, but interesting because your sister loves like slice of life, right? Which arguably for some people are the boring parts. So finding out which boring parts to keep in, also, right?
And yeah, and even in slice of life, you still take out a lot, like,
Yeah.
and because it's just see what the slice of life can give you, just the feeling of it. And but sometimes some the that feeling might be repetitive, so you have to take out the repetitive parts just so that you can feel something.
Okay. Well, one more question that I kind of had. Obviously, right? This film is bilingual, right? There are subtitles, but it is spoken in both English, Spanish, Spanglish, basically.
Hmm.
And you referenced kind of as one point in the conversation, about understanding, right? Like having somebody who understands you as a Latinx individual, which may or may not play into the is there not, like, will they, won't they, kind of like third layer to the relationship. Obviously, you guys are Colombian. It's very important to you. You know how I guess, like, what about the Latinx and Colombian identity comes into play for you guys in this film and in other films that you guys are working on?
Um, I have a very interesting experience when I graduated school and I started getting deep in the industry and I started auditioning a lot. Um, I would get so much from casting directors like, "Can you be more Latin? Can you be more Colombian?" And that to me was like, I mean, I can't be more of what I already am. Like I didn't understand that. So when I to me, like, being part, like, or showcasing my culture and who I am is a big thing. Like I said, like I love slices of life, so I love a true story, right? So when I started thinking about the script, and then I started thinking about, there's when I think of my art, I always have to think, do I want to tell it in English or in Spanish? Because I am a Spanish speaker and I'm from a Spanish culture, but I am in America and I do also love the, like, a lot of the American culture too, and I've also embraced it in my day to day. So when thinking about this script, I was thinking, like, what is more true to me? Telling this in Spanish or telling this in English? And then I realized I literally speak Spanglish all day, every day, especially with my other Latinx friends here, right? So that's the reason why I decided to keep it Latinx. And then I have been asked before, like why not English or why not Spanish? And then I said, like, that is how I wanted to showcase this part of my culture, because there is a part of my culture that is only in Spanish, and then there's a part of my culture that is only in English because I am an immigrant here. But then there's also a very big gray area where it's 50-50 of both.
Mhm.
So that is something that I wanted, that is my little Latinx stamp that I wanted to put in this film.
Yeah, no, I mean, as an Asian American, Filipino American, I definitely relate to that. Not quite Asian enough for Asian people, not quite American enough for American people. It's like that own third culture in there. Andy, what about you? Anything in here that or for future projects, I guess, that speak to your Latinx Colombian identity, especially as someone who more recently came to the U.S.
I think in some way when came in here to LA, I was never expecting to be resonant to like trying to make like Latinx films in the future. It was something that I was not thinking, but after doing this, I just became like, wow, like this part of me is something that I is from my culture, so that it's an identity that I need to represent as well. That even while doing this, I was very proud of it, and I was like, this is actually something that I should all look into it and see what I can do in the future with it as well, because it's something that I can embrace and should embrace, I think. So I'm
Yeah,
really happy that my sister brought me into it. So and it kept me thinking. It's like, yeah, I should probably keep doing this and embrace it, I think.
yeah. I think what like Andy was kind of mentioning in the beginning, when we're in Colombia, we don't really think about our Colombian stamp, you know? Like we don't think about how do I how do other people perceive me? How do I perceive myself in other cultures, you know? So like I've been here for three times more than my like three times longer than my brother has been here, right? So I think I have a little bit more of an understanding of what it is to be Colombian in Los Angeles. So so I know that my brother was probably not thinking about this when I was making this film, and I also wasn't thinking about like what is my brother thinking. It was like it just happened naturally where like I really have grounded myself or like understood way more what it is to be Latinx and particularly Colombian here in LA. So, and I didn't want to make a film about that either. Not necessarily, not that I also don't want to, but but it wasn't this film. But so I
And
think
it's
like
part of the character, right?
yeah, exactly. So it's part of her life for sure. It is as it is mine. And then my friend was also like the friend in the film was also he's also Latinx. So it was like and we talk and just the way we are and we perform and we talk is very Latinx, but we still like said like one thing that we want to really make it like maybe have it very on the nose is the fact that we speak both languages fluently, right? So so that was that.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of to wrap this whole conversation. It sounds, obviously, your audience will take away something from a film production, right? You take something from the film that they view, be it this will they won't they story or so on. But I think it's amazing to hear how this film and kind of hopefully this production company you guys are working on has brought you two closer together as siblings, and also how it's taught you something just about yourselves in general.
Yeah, that's very very right on. Like I as a probably as a the ego of an older sister, sometimes I'm like what can I learn from my baby brother,
Oh,
you know? But like
I'm the elder brother. I get that.
exactly, yes. But then when we were working, I was like there are a million things that I don't know that my brother does just because of the fact that we're in different fields, you know? So it was also like a moment of like again, he's a coworker, so he's going to have like I have to listen to him, and then it was also very like, oh wow, my brother is teaching me things, you know? So that was I think that definitely brought us closer and like gave us more of like this like we can keep doing this and we will. So that was a great experience.
Yeah. How about you, Andy? Same sentiment?
You
Oh,
better.
you're muted. You're muted.
Oh, no, we can't hear
No,
you.
no, no, definitely. I feel like um, it's just working with my sister. This was like the first time working full on my sister on post production phase, and it was just like there was some stuff that, of course, my sister was on set doing stuff, and then I was just on my own area trying to explain her what some stuff going on. And to me, that I think my sister receiving the notes that I was giving made me feel like appreciated in some way, that at least we could collaborate, and like me trying to explain it, I was like, maybe my sister is does get this, and it's stuff that I really can talk to her about it. It's just
Mhm.
no, it's something that I thought I wouldn't share it to her unless like previous years before, but now that we're on this working together, is something that I'm glad that I'm talking with her. And I also learned a lot with about her, because she became producer, actress, and writer, and how she wrote all of this and then transmitted it into film. And I was like, I actually, this is very powerful, because you're kind of in control of the story, I will also let you uh, teach me what do you want in the edit, and I'll just be your gateway into making it happen.
Mm.
Basically, the collaboration just made it feel safer and more communal, I think.
Well, now your parents back home will know for sure that you guys are getting along up here for sure.
If they
Um,
ever
For
doubted it,
sure.
for sure,
yeah.
yes.
All right. So, I think that kind of wraps up this interview. You guys mentioned you guys, have started had worked. I think it sounds like you sought another film already, and maybe are in post production for that. Tell us about your upcoming projects for Golden Watch or anything else that you guys are working on.
For me, I think, well, we just did the pyramid last year with my producer and my sister, and we're trying to take out that film soon, around this year, and we have some other projects lined up around middle of the year to start producing and start writing, basically, so that we can
Mhm.
pump out more stuff eventually, and we can be seen eventually.
Yeah. I think for me too, like I do have some other scripts that I want to start getting my hands on. But I also like a big discovery that I had, or a big coming to terms that I had last year, was I also love photo shoots. So
Mm.
it was something that I also want to start bringing into my production company. Like at first it's called Golden Watch Films, but and so I felt like I was restricted to that, but then I realized, well, we can also have other type of productions, and I don't like it's still with our stamp on it. So that is also like that is something that's percolating in our house, in our production house.
Awesome. Well, if people want to keep track of Pyramid whenever it comes out, I'm sure you guys will share it. But social media for you, MJ, and then you, Andy. Letterbox, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever you call it, YouTube, anything else. Where can people follow your production company and follow you guys?
We do have our production company Instagram. It's called at Golden Watch Films, and my Instagram. That's where I like really. I'm always talking about everything, my projects, my life, my everything. So you can
Truth.
find me at yes at MJ Garcia dot JPG, because I think I'm funny. But
Mhm.
that's where you can find me and my production company. I don't know my brother's handle.
For my Instagram handle is at directed by Andy Garcia, and for my YouTube it is Andres Garcia Movies. I do a lot of editing myself, and I also edit the mashups for AoDR. And I think for my letterbox is Andres Garcia 102.
Yeah, I will vouch for Andy's end of year compilations of movies. I think that's actually where I first came across you. You had posted it on one of the
Mm.
subreddits, and I was very impressed by those. So super
Mm.
awesome to see those
That was
see them
like
again.
around 3 years ago, no, four
Yeah,
years ago, probably. Oh my god,
Oh
yeah. This just
wow.
became.
awesome.
Oh
Well, thank you
yes.
guys for coming so on. It's super cute to see two siblings working together, learning from each other, and producing art together. So definitely an inspiration for us all. Everyone, if you haven't yet, if you're watching this, what are you doing? Go back and watch Bbcitos. Watch the rest of the films on the AoDR Film Festival. And yeah, looking forward to whatever you guys have next. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Paulo. This was very fun, very great.
Thank you so much, Paula. Really, thank you.
All right.
Yeah,
Uh,
and thank you, AODR.
which means you're thinking your
The
brother.
Academy of Death Racers.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you guys.